Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
How does this sound? Cam Jordan apparently would like a contract extension with the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to start here because we got a lot to do today, but I'm going to start here because we're talking about maybe who might go down as the greatest defensive player in Saints history, a certain New Orleans Saints Hall of Famer, someone who, when his career is done, at some point will likely find himself in the Saints Ring of Honor. And for all those reasons, you could look and say, well, that makes sense. Why wouldn't he sign a contract extension with the New Orleans Saints? Well, the reason is singular, and I think it's easy to understand for really any sports fan. Cam Jordan is 33 years old. He'll be 34 in July. He's been in the league for a dozen years, all with New Orleans, and he's been a massively durable and productive player. As we just said, he may end up being the greatest defensive player in Saints history. But for a guy that's been in the league for a dozen years and has been massively productive, when you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, when you start to see the finish line, you start thinking about a championship. And Cam Jordan has talked about this. He wants to win a championship. And I don't doubt at all that Cam Jordan wants to win a championship in New Orleans. I would assume that is his preference, is to win a championship, a Super Bowl with the New Orleans Saints. This report comes from Brett Martell of the Associated Press, who spoke with Doug Hendrickson. Doug Hendrickson is Cam Jordan's agent, and said that he has had conversations with the team about a contract extension with Cam Jordan, and that Jordan is looking for at least a 2-year deal. So Cam will be 34 before this season. Should they extend him 2 years beyond the current year he has, that would put him at his 36-year-old season in 2025. Essentially, 2025 would then be his final season in New Orleans, this being his contract year. Jordan said, quote, again, this is Brett Martell, the Associated Press, quote, "If we get a deal done, that'll probably be the final years of my career here. Whatever happens, happens in terms of how we play, how we want to attack offenses. That's what I'm here for." You know, I'm really curious because everyone has different motivators in life. Like, no matter what you do in life, everybody's motivated by different things. Some people are motivated by strictly financials. Who is going to pay me the most money? Everything else be damned. And that's okay. Some people are motivated by accolades. Where am I going to go to have the most individual success? That's okay. Some people are motivated, like whatever you do based on your schedule. Like, forget NFL, professional sports, whatever you do professionally. Some people are motivated by how it's going to allocate their time that they could spend with family and free time and things like that. How much of my life is my job going to take? It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. It's just everybody is motivated by different sets of factors with what they do professionally. And it's perfectly fine and understandable and agreeable. Whatever you choose is best for you. Again, choose what's best for you in life. And maybe for Cam Jordan, what he wants is he would love to win a Super Bowl in New Orleans, but maybe the thing he wants is to be the Saints' all-time sack leader, to play his entire career with one team. These are only questions that Cam Jordan can answer. But something we see very often around the NFL, and really just around sports in general, are players who have been really great players late in their career when they realize the team they've been with for a very long time is not competing for a championship. They look for the opportunity to go somewhere else to compete for that championship. One great recent example is former LSU Tiger Andrew Whitworth. Whitworth spent more than a decade in Cincinnati, the team that drafted him in the second round. He was an all-pro caliber left tackle for more than a decade there in Cincinnati with the Bengals, and he was reaching and they just never won. They made the playoffs a lot of years with Andy Dalton, as we saw, and they just never even won a playoff game. And he neared the end of his career, and he saw an opportunity to go to a situation where he could win, have the opportunity to win. And that's exactly what happened. The Rams won the Super Bowl in their home stadium there at SoFi, and Andrew Whitworth called it a career after that game. We see it happen a lot. And it doesn't always work out. J.J. Watt's a great example of it not working out. First ballot Hall of Famer, one of, if not the greatest defensive player of his generation, a truly dominant defensive lineman who played such a long time in Houston, had such a storied career, but realized Houston was in the midst of a rebuild, and he went and played in Arizona to finish his season. Now, they didn't get to a Super Bowl, and so it didn't really work out in that end, but he was trying to chase that elusive ring at the end of his career. And Cam Jordan fits the mold of someone who, at this point in his career, would be a likely candidate to say, I want to go chase that ring. I want to get that ring late in my career. And there's tons of examples across lots of different sports. I just gave you a couple of examples in the NFL, one that worked and one that didn't. But you can point them out in a lot of different places. Look at, Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander's a guy who was in the Detroit organization, made it to a World Series in Detroit. But ultimately, they weren't very good. They were in the midst of a rebuild. He goes to Houston. He manages to win a couple of championships in Houston. Now he's moved again. He's with the Mets and all that stuff. But you understand the point. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. There's tons of examples in a lot of different sports. And my assumption is Cam Jordan would have been one of those guys who late in his career would have looked at the New Orleans Saints as a team that's not close to competing for a championship and decided he was going to try to go win one somewhere else in an advantageous situation. It would be look at Ndamukong Suh, who's won championships, but Ndamukong Suh won one in Tampa and won one with the Rams and said, hey, look, the Eagles, they're a great team. Let me go join the Eagles. Join the Eagles this year. Played in the Super Bowl, didn't win it, but the point is, you see this with guys late in their career, and I figured Cam Jordan would be one of those guys, but it appears as though he's willing to stay in New Orleans to finish his career with another maybe 2-year deal with the Saints to see how it all plays out. And interestingly enough, if Cam Jordan, think about this, if Cam Jordan does finish his career in New Orleans, if he decides to sign a 2-year extension, play, say, another 3 years with the New Orleans Saints, breaks Ricky Jackson's all-time sack record, which he would be in line to do, it's interesting because Ricky Jackson is a guy who left New Orleans late in his career and went and won a Super Bowl. Ricky Jackson, of course, was a member of the San Francisco 49ers team in 1994 that beat the Chargers and won that Super Bowl in blowout fashion with Steve Young. So you're finally getting the monkey off his back. But Cam Jordan is chasing Ricky Jackson's all-time sack record, and he would certainly put distance there for that. And interestingly enough, he'd pass a guy who did in fact leave New Orleans late in his career. Not to knock Ricky Jackson in any way, but interestingly enough, as it plays out, we'll keep an eye on that. It looks like Cam Jordan could very well be in line for a contract extension that the Saints are open to that will allow him to finish his career with the New Orleans Saints. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.